Last week, my hubby went to his oath-taking ceremony and he finally got his US naturalization certificate. Yeah! I'm sharing the story toward his citizenship, some of our setbacks, and since this is a Christian perspective, I'll be sharing some of the lessons and some Bible verses that helped us through them. So if you're interested in that, then stay tuned! Hello friends and family! I'm Hannah of Hope and Future Bible Devotions and I am going to be sharing our Going Back to America story. Yes, I'm a second-generation immigrant. I was born here in Los Angeles, California. We were here for 10 years of my first years of life. We moved to the Philippines. We were there for almost 20 years. I met my husband. He didn't know that I was an American citizen. We had fun, we clicked, and we're married now, of course. Then because of some family circumstances, which has to do with health, it was better for them to be settled and treated here in America, so we came back. This is more of my husband's story since I'm already a US citizen, but because we are one, we are married, it is also my victory. Here we go. I applied to petition my husband in June of 2016. I did all the paperwork, I submitted the I-130, and since I wasn't in America yet, I didn't have a job, my uncle was the one who would sign up as the primary sponsor just in case anything happens financially. That started the waiting process. In November of that year, me and my first family already flew here to the US, and my husband stayed in the Philippines to wait for the approval of the petition. During that time, actually, the process was pretty quick because that was pre-COVID. He followed the medical requirements like giving the sputum and everything else medically. And by December 31 of the same year, he was able to set foot in America. Okay, let's go back to the story, shall we? It took about 6 months for his petition to be approved. So when he arrived here, he again followed the medical requirements needed here. He got his green card and he was permitted to work. Fast forward, 3 years passed, and though my husband was already eligible for citizenship, we didn't apply right away. Finally, in the first quarter of 2021, we decided to apply for naturalization of my husband, the N-400. We submitted the initial requirements. On another day, we gave the biometrics. On another day, of course, we had the interview, and he did pretty well during that part. I remember being a little nervous for him, but low-key, I was kind of expecting that he already took the oath and he would already be a naturalized citizen. But there were some documents that he was still missing. They were the requirements to prove that we've been married. At that point, he came home and I was like, oh, you know, my husband can take care of that and it should be simple. Just submit everything online. And that was my mistake. A month later, we received a notification that my husband's case was denied. Yes, the first mistake was that I just let my husband do everything. There was no one else to double check, triple check. Second, there was a misunderstanding of the instructions. My hubby thought that all he had to do was to prove that we've been married, so he did that. But what was required was to prove that before submitting the application for the N-400, 3 years prior to that, we've been living together. So that's the instruction and we did not follow that, and that is why our case was denied. Of course, I panicked during that time because we thought that we were already done, but never say it's over until you have that certificate with you. So with that, I asked for advice from some of my friends because we have a lot of friends who went through that same process. And what we did at the end was we just decided to file an appeal, which is the N-336. So of course, we filled that up carefully. We explained why we felt like our application should have been approved, and we gave the supporting documents. We made sure that everything was correctly filled up and all the documents were complete. Finally, after a month, we weren't expecting it. I was out with my mom shopping and my husband texted me and said, "Great news! He received a notification of his oath-taking ceremony." Woohoo! I mean, I'll admit, even when we got the schedule for oath-taking, I was still like, okay, what's next? What else? What do we have to do? I was a little bit worried. But after watching some videos online, I was a little bit more at ease. The day of oath-taking finally came, and let me give you some tips for the oath-taking. First, of course, is once you get the oath-taking date, block off your schedule and prioritize it. Yes, you can reschedule it, and of course, there are some instances like if you're pregnant, you're giving birth, then yes, that is a very valid excuse. But if there's nothing important or there's nothing more important than that, then go to your oath-taking ceremony, because the more times you reschedule, the bigger chances that you will get denied again. Just go and attend it. As I said earlier, the process is not done unless you have that certificate in your hands. The second one is give ample travel time. Don't do what we did. My husband's appointment was at 8 a.m. and we arrived at 7:55 a.m. You have to give enough time, not just for oath-taking, for anything. And that was our mistake. Give ample time to travel. Next one. Now, some of you might be wondering if you can bring your family and friends. We were assigned to go to the Santa Ana office in California. No, we cannot bring visitors inside the building unless you have an interpreter. So you can bring your spouse or your friend who's going to act as an interpreter for you if you can't understand English very well. But aside from that, family and friends should stay outside. Okay, but the good thing is I met someone who came from Iran, and that was amazing. So some of you might be wondering about parking. In Santa Ana, there is paid parking for people who want to keep their cars there, or you can just go somewhere else and wait for your loved one to finish and then come back, not pay anything. The good thing is that I was able to document my husband's first walk outside as an American citizen.
Hey, American citizen. Yeah.
Next is, you might be wondering where you can take pictures. You can take some pictures by yourself if you are the one taking the oath, but there's also an area, and you can look at this one. That was in front of the law library. It was only us that was there. No one was telling us that we couldn't go there, so we just took some pictures. And it was fun. Then, of course, don't forget to celebrate. As I said earlier, I'll be sharing some life lessons that I got and some Bible verses that helped me along the way. Number one is, know that God is taking care of you. Philippians 4 verses 6 to 7 says, "Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus." There were times during the process that I was worried. And there was also a time that I just let my guard down and not think about it. That last setback kind of shook us. But then on, we were a little bit more alert and in prayer. And because of that setback, we actually appreciated this accomplishment of my husband even more. So I am actually thankful for the setback. We don't need to be anxious. We don't need to be worried. Just know that God is in control of everything. Number two is be grateful wherever you are. In 1 Thessalonians 5:18, it says, "Give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus." I'm part of a Filipino community church, and one thing the generation before us always reminds us younger ones is to be grateful that they are in America. And it's actually true. I'm actually grateful that I experienced about 20 years in the Philippines. Life is simple there, but the Lord brought us here, even if we didn't intend to. And I was an ESL teacher for a super long time, and I got to encounter different cultures, They got to tell me about their lifestyles and how it is in the countries where they live. And when I got to meet this woman who came from Iran, I got to hear her story, and it got me appreciating where we are. Not everyone gets to set foot in America, and for those who have that opportunity, be thankful. Know that you're blessed. And third is to be open for what the Lord has in store for you. It says in Isaiah 55 verses 8 to 9, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts." As I said earlier, we had no plans of going here to America again, but here we are, and we stayed longer than we expected to. My husband is now an American citizen, and his first response while taking that oath was, "Okay, Lord, what's next?" It's true that our thoughts are finite. We're not God, and God has infinite wisdom. He has infinite knowledge. He knows what'll happen in the future. He's seen what happened in our past, and not all of it is pleasant, but He has great plans for us, and His ways are higher. So let's just be open to what He has in store, whatever His plans are for His followers. Reflect on that. I hope you were blessed. I'd really appreciate that if you could press that like button. If you want more content like this, feel free to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Know that in God, we have a hope and future. Keep your eyes on Jesus.